warm welcome to this lecture series on organizational behavior. We are in this chapter on personality. This is our 7th section of this chapter. I am Dr. MP Ganesh. I'll quickly summarize what happened in the previous lectures. We defined what is personality. We also looked at the argument of nature versus nurture in influencing personality as a attribute. We also looked at few theories on personality. The first theory we looked at was psychoanalytic theory by Sigmund Freud. The second theory which we looked at was social learning theory, which talks about the role of social factors in shaping individual behavior. The third theory, the third group of theories are humanistic theories, in which we spoke about self theory. More specifically, we spoke about Carl Roger's theory of self, in which we understood the connection between self-concept, self-esteem and unconditional acceptance. We also looked at self-awareness and its importance in unconditional self-acceptance, unconditional positive regard. So we looked at this interesting model called Johari's window. In the previous section, we also looked at the characteristics of employees with high self-esteem. So this helped us understand why it is important to improve the self-esteem of the employees. Okay. So this is where we stopped in the previous lecture. So in this section, we are going to talk about some of the other forms of personality attributes or other theories on personality. So there is a very interesting concept called locus of control in psychology, which is seen as a personal attribute which influences our behavior in all the aspects. So locus of control is an individual's assumption that he or she controls his or her life and also things which happening around them. So people who believe that I control my life, I control where I should reach, and I can influence the environment around me, those people are called people with internal locus of control. Similarly, the other end of the spectrum is external locus of control. People of external locus of control believe that others control my life. Whatever happens in my life is because of external factors. So you can understand the difference. People of internal locus of control believe whatever happens in my life, it's happening because of me and I can decide what can happen in my life. The other way around is external locus of control. And in fact, this is a continuum. It's not like people are extremely internal locus of control or extremely external locus of control. It's not like you are either internal locus of control or completely external locus of control. People can fall in between also. Some issues they believe are controlled by external factors. Some issues they believe they are controlled by internal factors. So for time being, let's take these two groups: people with internal locus of control assumptions and people with external locus of control belief system. Which is better? So the immediate question comes to our mind is, which group is more healthy and successful? Again, it depends on many factors. Let's look at the positives and negatives of internal locus of control. The positives of being a person with internal locus of control is they actively take charge of what is happening in their life. They are not passive. So they are very proactive, they plan well, they try to take control of what is happening in their life. They will take charge of things around them. They are willing to take responsibilities and things like that. But the negative aspect of internal locus of control is, if you have too much of internal locus of control, you may feel highly stressed because you think whatever happens to me is because of me. So I have to do something. So that can create a lot of stress. It can also create a lot of guilt. So if something goes wrong, the person puts the blame on himself or herself and feels bad about what has happened, which sometimes may not be necessary, or sometimes it may not be true that whatever happens in your life is happening because of you. So this is one way of looking at internal locus of control. External locus of control, people of external locus of control, the advantage of being an external locus of control is, a person with external locus of control is, they don't get stressed. They feel, okay, things are not under my control. Whatever happens, let it happen. And whatever happens is already written. People who believe in the theory of karma, they believe they are external locus of control. They think, nothing is in my hand. I can try, but results are always determined by other factors which are not in my hand. So they feel less stressed. They, they flow as per what happens around them. Vis-a-vis internal locus of control, they want to plan. They want to be very assured of what they are planning and how it should happen. But external locus of control people, they are, okay, anyway I don't have control, so whatever happens, let's try to get the best out of it, those kind of attitude. But the disadvantage of external locus of control is, being external locus of control is, many a times you lose opportunities. You think, nothing is in my control, so you don't actively take charge of what is happening around you. So sometimes it is possible to change what is happening around us, the external factors. Especially if you plan in advance, you may not be able to achieve everything you have planned, but at least you will be able to predict what can happen in future, and accordingly have plan B or contingencies. So planning is very important, which internal locus of control people do, but stress which these people take internal locus of control is not essential. So which is the ideal situation, or which is the ideal level of locus of control? Somewhere in between. You should understand what can be changed and what cannot be changed. So whatever can be changed, we should actively take control. If something is not under our control, we should accept that it is not under our control, but try to have plan B. So especially in work context, internal and external locus of control play a very important role. So in work behavior, people of internal locus of control, they are very good in planning, taking charge and things like that, but again they are very prone to stress. External locus of control are very open, they are sort of flexible, but at the same time sometimes they miss out on opportunities which come on their way. So it actually, combination of both is more effective. Okay, so in psychology, especially on personality theories, there are different ways in which personality attributes are measured. So these differences in measurement is based on how they see personality as a personal quality. So there are two groups of people. One group believe that personality qualities are styles which vary, in which people vary. Another group of people who believe in traits. Traits are qualities which change from one person to another. So this may sound similar, but I'll explain with an example. So type theory believes that each individual has a particular style of personality, or there's a particular style of behaving. So you can categorize people in some 4-5 styles. So let's say there are 3-4 different styles. You can measure somebody's personality and group that person in one particular style. So these styles are mutually exclusive in nature. So one style will not overlap on the other. So these are categories. Traits are qualities So let's say there are 4 or 5 qualities which may be found in all individuals, but the level in which people vary in these qualities will change from one individual to the other. So I hope you understand the difference. So type means categories. There are some 4-5, let's assume there are 4-5 categories. You can put that label on a person, you belong to this category of personality style. Trait is you measure a quality in a continuous scale and see where this person falls in this scale. Many of these recent research on personality accept trait as a more valid way of measuring personality. So this is a very popular tool, measurement tool, which measures personality as a trait. So according to this questionnaire, this tool, personality has 5 different dimensions. We all have these 5 dimensions, but the level in which we have these qualities will change from one person to another. So the first quality is adjustment. Some people call it neuroticism. So neuroticism means some people adjust to an external environment in a better way, but few people take a lot of time to adjust or adapt. The second quality is sociability, which means some people are very open to interacting with others. They are very sociable. They like being around people, more like extroversion. The other extreme of sociability is they are very introverted, which means they like being alone. They don't want to interact with people. They are they enjoy doing things in their own space and things like that. So people can vary in this, between these two extremes. Consciousness is people who they don't need to be controlled by external factors. They follow the rules. They are very disciplined. They are very they plan a lot in deciding what they want to do and things like that. Very disciplined kind of people. The other extreme is people who are very careless, are very they don't structure their life and things like that. Agreeableness is some people are very easily convincible, or some people can be convinced very easily. On the other hand, some people take a lot of, they are like very closed and they don't actually get convinced by others. So this is another scale, agreeableness. Intellectual openness is open to new experiences. So some people are very open to new experiences. They like to experiment. They like to try out new things. They are less judgmental about people of other cultures and background. The other extreme is very close-minded. They don't want to experiment. They don't want to take risk and things like that. So we all have these 5 qualities, which are like it's like a spectrum. Each of these qualities are a spectrum. So we fall somewhere in between in this spectrum for each of these 5 dimensions. So this Big 5 model, it is called Big 5 model, is a very popular way of measuring personality traits among individuals, and they are very commonly used in work-related personality measurement also. Okay, so this trait introversion, extroversion is again a very popular way of measuring personality. In fact, the earlier Big 5 sociability denotes introversion, extroversion. If you are high in sociability, you are considered to be an extrovert. If you are low in sociability, you are considered to be an introvert. So there is also something called ambivert. Ambivert means people who fall in the middle. So some instances they are extroverts, some instances they are introverts. In some situations they prefer to focus inside. In some instances they like to socialize. Okay. There are also other scales or other personality qualities which are very relevant in work context. So one interesting personality quality which is measured in work context is dogmatism. So people who are dogmatic, again this is a personality trait. So people who are very high in dogmatism, they don't trust others easily. They are very close-minded. They are very authoritative. They like authority. They like to dominate others. They like to influence others in their decision making. they don't give freedom to their subordinates, and they are very resistant to change and things like that. There's a similar quality or a personality trait which is called authoritarianism. Authoritarianism is similar to dogmatism, like I said. People who are very high in authoritarianism, they easily obey authority, and at the same time they also like to exert authority on others. So people who easily accept their bosses, whatever my boss says is correct. Similarly, whatever I say, my subordinate should listen. So they are very compliant to power structures, and they are also very dogmatic. They don't want to listen to their subordinates. They are very close-minded, and they are very eager to get more power. They are also very political, which means they try to get more authority in their workplace by pleasing people above them. So these kind of people may not fit into an organization which is very flat in nature, which means organizations which are very democratic. There are no clear-cut hierarchy. People are treated based on their job roles rather than their designation. So those kind of organizations are called flat organizations. People who are very high in authoritarianism will not fit into flat kind of organizations. And they are also not very good bosses. They are considered to be very dictatorial kind of bosses. Especially in the newer kind of workforce, the millennial workforce, you cannot use authoritarianism to supervise or manage the newer generation, because these kind of younger generation employees, they are very they are very flexible. They expect their bosses to be very nurturing than dominating. Okay, there is another interesting personality dimension which is called Machiavellianism. Again, it is more of a negative quality. So Machiavellianism is a quality. If you are high in this quality, these people who are high in these qualities, they enjoy manipulating others. For them, results are more important, and they can do anything to achieve their results. And many a times these results are self-oriented results. These are not larger organizational results. These are like very self-oriented, very manipulative kind of individuals. They are very, if they want to do if they want something, they will act as if they are very friendly, and suddenly once their job is over, they will desert you, or they will they will not consider to be your friend. Okay, so these people are like very dangerous kind of people in workplace, because you cannot trust them, but they will be they act as if they are very trustworthy, but they will manipulate and extract work, and once their work is over, they will throw their subordinates or colleagues. So in fact, there are research which show that this is similar to psychopathic tendencies. People who are very manipulative, don't feel guilty, they don't actually care for others' welfare and things like that. So these are psychopathic tendencies. Machiavellianism tendencies are also similar to psychopathic tendencies. In fact, the research will show that many managers have this trait of Machiavellianism or psychopathic tendencies. So the question is, are Macs successful? In fact, many of us think that in a real life corporate world, you have to be very cutthroat in competition. In fact, many people feel that the ones who are successful are the ones who are able to manipulate others. Is it true? Not necessarily. Because in long run, Macs may not succeed. Why? Because at some point or the other, people will understand these people are very manipulative, and they may not cooperate with Machiavellianistic people. So in long run, if you don't have trust from your subordinates, from your colleagues, you cannot move in the hierarchy. Especially, like I said, in the newer generation, the newer employees and also the newer forms of organizations, they look for people who are willing to nurture others, who are willing to mentor others. So if you are very selfish in nature, if you are very self-centered, you cannot grow in the organizational hierarchy. How do we measure personality? We call it psychometric tests. Psychometric tests are tests designed by psychologists to measure psychological qualities, especially personality qualities. There are different ways in which they are measured. Broadly, by objective tests or by projective tests. Objective tests are tests which have fixed answers or rating scales. So there will be a statement and people has to tick whether it is right or wrong, whether it applies to them, or in a scale of 1 to 7 for that particular statement you completely agree to the statement or you don't disagree, or almost always true or never. So these are objective tests. So there will be fixed questions and there will be either yes or no answer to these questions, or scale which measures completely agree, completely disagree, and there will be different levels in between. Many of you would have seen those tests also. They are like survey questionnaires. So that is one group. Many a times these trait and type theory way of measurement involves objective tests. Projective tests are primarily used in psychoanalytic based theories, in which they will give you, they will measure personality through a very ambiguous stimuli. Let's say there's a test called thematic apperception test. So that in that test what they will do is they'll give you a very ambiguous kind of a photograph, and you have to tell a story based on that photograph. Let's say a photograph of a young child crying or bending his or her head, and there'll be an adult who will be looking aggressively. Let's say this is the picture. You have to tell a story. So some people will tell a story that this is a mother shouting at the child. Some people say this is a teacher shouting at the child, or the child is crying, the mother is surprised or curious why child is crying. So you can say many stories. So based on the stories, psychoanalysts will interpret the theme and try to understand what is your unconscious personality quality. There is also another test which is very famous, which is called Rorschach's inkblot test. Some of you would have seen those figures also, very ambiguous figures like in blue ink, and you have to tell the psychologist, the psychoanalyst, what figure do you see in that inkblot. So mostly in human resource management related areas they use objective tests because it's very easy to score the answers, and also you don't need to measure the deep-seated personality quality. You need to measure the broad category or the traits of a person. Okay. So personality, like I said, is a very important dimension psychologists try to use to explain individual differences, and especially in work context, personality plays a very important role in understanding or predicting work behavior of an individual. Like I said, person job fit. So whether your personality fits into a particular job profile, or your personal qualities like dogmatism or authoritarianism, will it suit the structure of the organization, the culture of the organization. So personality is predominantly used or widely used measure in organizational context. There are also other measures which differentiate people or which causes individual differences. So those are abilities. Abilities means capabilities, mental or physical capabilities. So all these entrance tests which we have, which measure your mental capabilities, or fall in one of these categories. So one, it is ability, which is what are you capable of. For example, aptitude test. So the difference between aptitude test and ability test is, aptitude tests are your potential to perform in a particular area. So aptitude doesn't mean that you are an expert in that area. Aptitude is you have the capacity to learn and perform in that area. Ability is you have the ability, you are able to perform, or in other words, your capabilities. So aptitude and abilities, they overlap to a large extent. Skill is more of again it's an ability, but many a times skill can be trained. Okay, So something which can be trainable is skill. Aptitude, many a times it's difficult to shape an aptitude. So for example, if you have an aptitude for mechanical stuff, you cannot make someone be interested in mechanical unless and until that person has the aptitude for mechanical skills or mechanical area, okay, or verbal aptitude. Someone has the capacity to learn language. Vis-a-vis, some people have capacity to learn logical things or mathematics. So people vary in their aptitudes, potential to learn. But skill the difference between aptitude and skill is aptitude cannot be created in a person. Again, it is a theory. It's not my belief, but these theories of aptitude and skill says that you cannot train people in creating an aptitude. You can shape or you can make a person better if he or she has an aptitude. But skill, in other words, can be trained or can be given. Okay. For example, you can train people in certain skills like language skill or mechanical skill. But again, it may sound they are overlapping. Okay. But in a strict sense, skill can be created and trained, but aptitude is more or less inborn. So many of our recruitments at a lower level involves aptitude testing also. If you are applying for a marketing job, they'll test your marketing aptitude. If you are applying for a clerical job, they'll test a clerical aptitude. Similarly, along with aptitude, they will also test your personality, whether your personality fits into that particular job or not. So it's not necessarily aptitude is sufficient. You need to have a personality also. For example, you are very good in clerical aptitude, but you are an extrovert. So you will feel very bored in that job, even though you are very good in being able to perform in that job. After a certain time, you will get bored because you are an extrovert. Other way around, you are very good in marketing fundas. You are very marketing aptitude, sales aptitude, but your personality is an introverted personality. You may not fit into those kind of jobs. So many times in recruitment, we use both aptitude and personality tests to understand whether a person will perform better in that job. Okay, so that's the end of this chapter. So quick summary: we looked at what is personality. We looked at different theories on personality, more specifically 4 theories: psychoanalytic theory, social learning theory, self theory, and trait and type theory. We also looked at other ways of defining other personality qualities which are relevant in work context, like dogmatism, locus of control, authoritarianism, things like that. And we also discussed about their relevance in work context. And we also looked at broadly how personality is measured, projective test and objective test. And we also, in the last slide, we looked at what are the other qualities which differentiate individuals apart from personality. So I'll stop here. This is the end of the chapter. We'll start the next chapter in the next lecture. Till then, take care. See you. Bye.